from their peers, from other people. And so what you see is the evolution of what I call the horizontal axis of communications. Let me try to explain this. The traditional model was top-down, right? You basically had a few messages and you pushed the information one way and it went mostly through advertising to the mass. And people believed it. It was a time of consumer, mass consumption in a way. Now, what's happened is the evolution of the horizontal axis of communications, which is brilliant for you if you're selling advertising for Microsoft. But what we observe in the so-called free media space, meaning what we do, is that it's spontaneous, it's driven from the bottom up, it's by passionate consumers, empowered employees. For instance, in your portfolio, it's people who may be talking among themselves, who may have a blog or something, and that then goes even into mainstream media. Stories are moving between the horizontal axis and the vertical axis. So let me tell you an example. I think in many cases now we see that blogs are the new runway into mainstream media. If you get a story into TechCrunch, for example, or Engadget, one of these New York Times or Wall Street Journal or FT, so the key is that you have a synchronization between the horizontal and the vertical. If you're not feeding the horizontal conversation, if you're just allowing it to happen, then you're missing a huge opportunity for you to tell your story. And I'll give you more examples in a while. Okay. As a global proposition, what you see from this chart from Morgan Stanley is that, in fact, internet usage in Europe and the US is growing, but the big horse here is actually Asia Pacific. That's where the huge number of new users is. So North America as share has gone from 35 to 16. It's not that the numbers have declined, it's that the share has declined. Go ahead. The big change in the world, folks, is the growth of social media. It's not that the other, again, this is a mix issue. It's not a quantitative number issue. But look at Wikipedia, YouTube, and MySpace. Those are the big growth engines for the past year or two in the internet. Go ahead, next slide. This is really important for you people who are in the marketing business. What you see is a mismatch between where the money is being spent and where the eyeballs are. The eyeballs are here, and particularly for teens, for young people, Xbox crowd, even more profoundly, you basically have an overspend presently on newspaper and magazine and a tremendous underspend on internet. And I saw the statistics yesterday for 2006. Internet advertising was only 5.5% of U.S. spend. But there is, if you can believe this, something like 25 to 30% of total hours on media spent on the internet. That mismatch cannot continue. That's why you see shrinkage in the newspaper segment, and magazines as well. Although the exception is consumer-facing magazines for people like you, which is sort of women's books. That's okay so far, partly because they've gone with, I'll explain later, but they've gone with a web product as a combined enterprise. Okay, next. I also want to point out to you the very big importance of this. Not that anybody who's Italian doesn't use this all the time. I actually think in Italy this is the photo of the average person. I almost never see this away from the ear. So I appreciate for the half an hour that I have that you don't have this. But the key point I want to make here is 3G. 3G allows, on this, full motion video. We are past the point of inflection. According to technology people like Mary Meeker at Morgan Stanley, when you get to 25% penetration, you're past the inflection point. This is where we are, just about at 25%. So you will see that there will be specific content, particularly for teen-oriented products, for the cell phone, because that's the universal device, more than any other that's global. So again, on the three screens, TV, PC, cellular, this is the thing that maybe has the fastest innovation. Okay, so I've given you the good side. Let me show you the other side. In the United States, what you see is, here's my father, born in 1920. More or less 80% of people read newspapers who were born in 1920. For people who were born in 1970, like some people in this room, who are 35 years old or so, in the U.S., between 20 and 30% read a newspaper every day. This is dire. So what you see is, these are the people who are going to die off. And these are the people who are living.
In this U.S. data?
This is U.S. data.
And is it also better in the U.S. than in Europe, for example?
Europe would not be as profound as this. Europe would be half X. Half X, more or less. So if you take these data for the U.S., you can say on this erosion curve, it's half X. So it would be here, something like this. And it depends which country, somewhat, but half X. Now, very important point. The migration, you would say, oh, so what? They're going to go online, right? If they're not reading the New York Times, they're going to read the New York Times online. Not true. Here's what's happening. They're going to Yahoo News, or they're going to the cable TV versions of the online news sites. They're not going to the top 50 newspapers. So you have a net loss of customers altogether out of local newspapers. You have some migration to New York Times, Wall Street Journal, so that these are no longer local papers, they become national. I'm trying to give you U.S. examples because I don't know your market well enough, okay? But I'm showing you, I think, where the future is going. So you're going to have fewer, bigger newspapers that remain. These guys are in big trouble, the local newspapers. So Philadelphia paper, San Jose paper, shrinking. Both print as well as the web version. Okay, so this is hard to read. Let me just tell you a few of the key points. Number one, for the first time, more people are reading newspapers online than they're reading in the print. This crossed last year. Second point, free sheets, the free newspapers that are just advertising supported, please.